A startling development has swept the reality TV scene. Kirk Frost and Young Joc, two celebrities we assumed would continuously supporting one another, have utterly destroyed their relationship, which was never meant to occur. Yet what began as a little disagreement between the two has now finally erupted into the most dramatic manner possible. A dispute has turned into a full-fledged altercation that has stunned both the entertainment business and fans. This occurred at an industry gathering when a seemingly casual discussion descended into a contentious. Before anybody knew it, the two were fighting physically after exchanging insults and arguments. What caused this startling altercation, and what does it portend for their personal and professional futures? Fans are still in shock at the news, with social media always ablaze with rumors of the breakup. Is this the end of a legendary friendship? How did Kirk Frost and Young Joc's relationship grow so bad? The truth behind this story is more nuanced than it seems. Appears, and we're going to get into the shocking specifics. You won't believe what has transpired next. Kirk Frost and Young, being two of the most well-known figures in the reality TV industry, their relationship has endured for years. That admirers revered, untouchable, founded on respect for one another and many shared experiences. Yet what began as a little and on-set miscommunication has now turned into a huge controversy that has stunned the whole entertainment world. Started on a typical day during a shooting break at an occasion that was supposed to be a lighthearted and enjoyable get-together, that no one could have anticipated the mayhem that would soon break out. The issue began when Kirk Frost, who had been coping with growing his professional and personal pressures, started to manifest the irritation he had been feeling lately. Several unfavorable media reports, some of which were stoked by his public connection with Rasheeda and others that resulted from the continuous turmoil in his career. Whereas Young Joc is renowned for his charming but sometimes impetuous, Joc had been outspoken about his own difficulties in the business. A remark he made, in according to witnesses, passing rapidly increased the two men's anxiety. Joc said something about Kirk's recent professional decisions raised doubts about his resolve to keep chasing reality rather than concentrating on more by chances. This remark, although innocuous to others, struck a chord with Kirk, who had been a heated exchange ensued as he struggled with his own uncertainties, and Joc's statements appeared to touch him more than anticipated. Kirk accused Joc of attempting to discredit him in their verbal fight, but the Joc who felt insulted didn't back down. The dispute became more heated as the two guys exchanged obscenities, and things quickly became out of control. At first, nobody believed the conflicts would become violent, but when both men's tempers flared, it was evident that the scene was quickly getting out of hand. What began as a verbal dispute quickly escalated into a full-fledged battle, and the two celebrities were at each other's throats before anybody could stop the cameras that had been filming. Everything documented the startling moment when Kirk pushed Joc into a table close to the group of people around them. Some others gasped and even took a step back in shock, as if everything they had ever understood about their relationship was disintegrating in a moment. The altercation went on with both guys punching one another, their rage overwhelming all feeling of security hurried in to break them up for this reason. But by the time the fight was over, the damage was already done. Fans who had long appreciated Kirk and Joc's closeness were left with the unmistakable impression that their relationship will never be the same again. Shocked, wondering how two buddies could go from joking and laughing on video to punching one another off-screen. But the drama didn't end there. What was even more startling was what would happen following. The whole matter to a degree that no one could have anticipated, and in the days that followed, stories started to circulate like the media was flooded with wildfire theories about what caused the brawl, with some insiders asserting that it wasn't just a. According to others close to the two men, there had been underlying tension beyond a straightforward dispute about professional choices. Tension that had been building under the surface for months, waiting for the ideal opportunity to blow up. Some indicated that the altercation had been simmering for much longer than anybody had thought, citing instances that had happened during earlier recording sessions. Others said that personal problems, especially those involving their families, were increasing the stress, One of the most explosive rumors that came to light included a covered agreement that Kirk was accused of being engaged in a transaction that he had concealed from his pals, including Joc, which some media characterized as it was said that hiring a game-maker for Kirk's career was the last straw in their failing relationship. After learning about Kirk's covered agreement, Joc felt deceived by his old buddy for keeping such crucial information from him. Kirk was incensed at how the trust between them, which had previously been shaky, had now been totally destroyed. Battle had been shown in the media. He posted a mysterious remark on social media that said, "Some individuals can't win you're successful. They'll stop at nothing to bring you down." Fans quickly surmised that Joc was the target of the post, and in reaction, Joc didn't remain quiet for very long. Uploaded a video of himself, visibly distressed, criticizing Kirk's behavior and expressing his genuine thoughts over their friendship. "I've always supported him, but that argument was about more than just his job. Kirk knows that," Joc remarked in an emotional voice. "He put his ego above our relationship, and I can't forgiveness notwithstanding." Supporters of both individuals were divided between the two sides, and this public battle only served to stoke the flames. Arguing for Kirk, claiming that he was under a lot of stress and wasn't worthy of receiving this treatment. Some took Joc's side, asserting that Kirk had become so conceited about his success that he had forgotten the individuals who had supported him from at first. There was obvious fan split, with heated debates erupting on social media, but the drama didn't end the end. The fallout had a significant impact on family members behind the scenes as well. Rasheeda, Kirk's wife, was said to be heartbroken by the altercation, not just due to the harm done to Kirk and Joc's relationship, but also because of she had always attempted to keep Kirk grounded, but she was aware of the demands of celebrity and the ongoing he was suffering from scrutiny, and now this public display threatened to destroy all they had worked for. In the meantime, Joc's family also had conflicting feelings. His close friends and family were dissatisfied with how there was a perception that Joc had reacted too quickly to the situation in public rather than addressing the matter in secret. And as things progressed, Kirk and Joc attempted to preserve what remained. Given their public personas, they participated in interviews and discussion programs in an effort to provide their perspective on the narrative. But regardless of their statements, the harm had already been done, and the mutual trust that had previously existed between them was gone. And as the weeks went by, it became evident that no amount of justification could repair the harm that had been done. The relationship between Kirk and Joc was permanently ruined. They stopped going out together, and their social media engagements decreased in frequency. And what had previously been a strong, sincere connection was vanished. Fans were left wondering whether these two reality Keith stars could ever be more than a savage rivalry. To make up for what they had lost, the fight's aftermath kept making headlines, with an increasing number of information about their private lives being revealed. But the most startling of all was the discovery that what seemed to be a straightforward disagreement between Kirk and Joc had revealed deeper problems that neither guy had been prepared to face off until it was too late. Due to the buzz in the media about Kirk Frost and Young, the tension between the two reality stars increased as the Joc battle went on, reaching new heights for spectators who had previously admired the pair as a representation of unwavering friendship, were suddenly forced to reconsider all they believed they understood. That both men's personal lives were collapsing behind the headlines in ways that nobody could have anticipated. Not only had their public fallout affected their careers, but it had also started to have an influence on their family, their reputations, and careers in ways that were irreparable. In the days after, the Kirk and Joc tried to recover as much of their image as they could from the violent battle. But their endeavors were overshadowed by the increasing conjecture over the real reason for their split. While the media had first alluded to problems relating to one's profession, but hints of deeper, more personal issues started to emerge. It quickly became evident that the altercation was the result of years of brewing animosity and unacknowledged grievances between. As the rumors swirled, an individual close to both men shared some startling information that had never been made public. This source claims that Kirk and Joc had been having difficulties for a while, but their personal lives were the source of the conflict. which extended beyond professional jealousy or disparities in careers, particularly in how they saw one another's relationships. During the time Kirk had been preoccupied with the highs and lows, Joc was having trouble in his marriage to Rasheeda, and these personal difficulties were the source of his marital problems that had progressively strained their relationship. One crucial instance that seemed to start the altercation was a disagreement that 2 months before. They had discussed the importance of women in their life. Although Joc had always been vocal about his, Kirk had become more private, often showing off his relationships with other ladies in public. While protective of his family, their divergent opinions became a source of conflict, particularly once Joc made a comment on how Rasheeda Kirk, who had always attempted to maintain Kirk's family life, had too much power over him. Unharmed by the remark, which was a shot at his devotion to his wife, despite the demands of celebrity. Deeper than Joc likely understood, but the hurt wasn't limited to the remark. There had been a long-standing rivalry between the two men, which neither had ever publicly recognized. But although it may have been slight, Kirk and Joc had both achieved success in the same field. However, Kirk had established himself via reality TV and his family's narrative. Joc's career had been more focused on music, and this subtly their relationship had been influenced by competitiveness, with each guy attempting to surpass the other in different ways. It wasn't merely about accomplishment, it came down to ego, and once that ego was damaged, there was no going back. Because of the more serious rumors, of fans started to wonder whether Kirk's brittle ego, which couldn't handle a joke, was the true cause of the altercation from his friend, or was it Joc's constant need for approval that drove Kirk to the brink? The reality is both men had played a part in the dissolution of their relationship under these circumstances, but it was the situation took a drastic turn after years of unsolved difficulties culminated in the last explosion. When Kirk and Joc began discussing the altercation in public, none of them was prepared to fully in interviews. Kirk continually denied any culpability for their conduct, characterizing the physical confrontation as a brief error of judgment and insistence that outside forces had harmed their connection. He said that their relationship had been unduly strained by the ongoing media attention, which none of them could control. He believed that Joc had not provided him with adequate assistance throughout his recent difficulties. Nonetheless, Joc was much more vocal. He attacked Kirk in a number of interviews and social media postings for what he saw as a betrayal of their relationship. "I've supported Kirk through good times and bad, so I never thought he would turn against me like this," Joc said in a tone full of rage and disappointment, making it apparent that he believed Kirk had turned away himself from him over time, putting his family and job above their relationship because he believes he is superior to everyone else. Currently, Joc's issue is that he forget who supported him prior to the cameras starting. Their supporters were forced to choose between the two, and some chose Kirk's side as the gap between them widened daily. Others backed with him, thinking he was just attempting to shield his profession and family from the constant burden of celebrity. Joc believed Kirk had renounced their relationship for his own self-interest, but the actual twist occurred when the families of both men were compelled to intervene, and Rasheeda, Kirk's wife, was said to be saddened by the consequences. She had always been Kirk's pillar of support, helping him get through both his highs and lows in his profession. But now she found herself embroiled in a very visible argument between her spouse and his closest friend. When she had always encouraged Kirk's professional decisions, but she was unable to overlook the negative impact that the conflict with Joc was having. Taking him on in private, Rasheeda reportedly felt devastated by the outcome and attempted to persuade Kirk to get in touch with Joc and make amends, but Kirk insisted that he had nothing to regret on. On the other hand, Joc's family had strong feelings about the circumstance as well. His close friends and family members were distressed by Kirk's actions, with others claiming that he is overly sensitive and unable of managing the truth. Joc's followers supported him and urged him to put his own accomplishments first and leave the unhealthy relationship behind. But there were apologies in Joc's camp, with some people questioning if their relationship could survive the public dispute. be fixed, or had they gone so far that they couldn't go back? As the drama played out the effects, it became clear that Kirk and Joc's once strong fan bases were now split, and the public's opinion of both men had changed, and the altercation had harmed not just their bond, but also their reputation. While the actual consequences of the fallout were only starting to emerge behind the scenes, leaving both to pick up the pieces. Situations in which Kirk and Joc were both grappling with the consequences of their behavior and questioned if the altercation had been irrevocably ruined their careers. What had seemed to be a little argument had turned into a defining factor. Neither man could foresee where this road would lead them at this point in their lives or professions. But one thing was evident, that their relationship had ended and that nothing would ever be the same because of the public's interest in the altercation between Kirk Frost and young Joc intensified. The drama took a more sinister turn, and the media hype was at an all-time high. Every social media site and gossip column is ablaze with news about the two men's falling out. Admirers, celebrities, and influencers offered their opinions on the matter, stoking the already raging flames. Yet, despite the drama seemed to be giving social media tabloids infinite material, Kirk and Joc were both having difficulties no one could understand. It was becoming more evident that the conflict had negatively impacted both men's mental health behind closed doors. Despite their rough exteriors, they were both secretly struggling with emotions of loneliness, perplexity, and betrayal. The strain of always being watched by the public had now gotten to them, and neither Kirk nor Joc seemed ready for Kirk's repercussions, since the fallout was personal and he had based his career on being a family guy, someone who put his wife and kids first. But in the wake of after the altercation with Joc, he began to doubt everything. Was being loyal to his family the best decision, or had it damaged his friendships beyond repair? His marriage to Rasheeda was stable, but the stress brought on by the unquestionably, Rasha had been a rock of support for Kirk throughout his career, but even she had a public dispute with Joc. Couldn't protect him from the psychological damage that his friendship's disintegration had created behind closed doors. Their exchanges had gotten tense, and Kirk was withdrawing more and more inside himself. Always there for Kirk during good times and bad, had thought that the altercation would end soon. But as the days stretched into weeks, she began to worry more about her husband's coping, since he seemed aloof, and Kirk acknowledged that he was struggling in private and was less focused on the things that used to be important to him. After the altercation, he wondered whether he had made the proper choice in choosing his family over Joc, or if the value of their relationship throughout the years had been so great that he even questioned if he could never fully mend the harm done to his image. But Kirk wasn't the only one having difficulties. Young Joc was also having trouble with wrestling with his own feelings, but behind the scenes, he had given the world the impression that he was strong and confident. He was handling the fight's aftermath in his own manner. He had always taken pleasure in his capacity to manage turmoil in his personal and professional life, but this time was different because of the rupture with Kirk, which was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Had never gone through. Not only had he lost a close buddy, but his reputation had also suffered, and the job was spotted trying to re-establish himself in the media in the weeks after the fight, posting a number of ominous social media postings on personal development, moving forward, and taking lessons from challenging circumstances. Yet his seemed to be a last-ditch effort to save his reputation, as his once supportive fan base was now split, with many Joc's annoyance increased as he wondered whether he was being too protective about the circumstances behind the public show. He believed Kirk was playing the victim by denying his own responsibility for their friendship's demise. Joc's camp said that Kirk's propensity to withdraw from his friends and concentrate only on his family was that he thought that Kirk's ambition for power was the final cause of the dramatic altercation, which had been a source of stress for years. And Kirk's failure to accept responsibility for his role in the incident made him feel deceived. However, as the days went on, it became evident that the altercation was harming the public in ways beyond simply their friendship. Fans' perceptions of Kirk and Joc were changing, and many began to wonder what their actual reasons. Everyone was wondering whether the two men's disagreement could ever be resolved, or if in a surprising turn of events, Kirk and Joc started to allude to the prospect of lasting harm. At first, the notion of reconciliation seemed absurd. How could two men who had publicly ripped one another apart ever discover a strategy to mend their damaged relationship while speaking privately with their closest friends regarding family? Both men said that they wanted to move on and find a solution since they were aware of the conflict had caused them more harm than good, and they didn't want it to determine how they lived the rest of their lives. But the root, although both men were receptive to the concept of making apologies, the persisting issues made reconciliation more difficult than it seemed. It was hard to overlook the anguish and hatred that had been inflicted on their relationship. It had gone too far an end. In a heartfelt moment, Kirk told his close friends and family that he felt deceived by someone he couldn't comprehend how the guy he had trusted the most, who was regarded as a brother, could so easily betray him. In a similar vein, Joc told his buddies that while he had always looked to Kirk for comfort, the altercation had broke that image, and Kirk's actions, which the media was obviously promoting, left him feeling abandoned and caught off guard. Some sites speculated that Kirk and Joc would never get back together because of the tension, were gathering covertly behind closed doors to resolve their differences, while others thought the gap was too. Fans were divided, with some fervently wishing for a reconciliation and others advising both men to move on, concentrate on their own professions. The public's fixation on their select few kept the story going, and as the months went by, it became more and more obvious that neither Kirk nor Joc could avoid the consequences. Discovered that they were handling the aftermath in rather different ways, with Kirk being more concerned with his family and Joc immersed himself back into his music career in an effort to reclaim the momentum he had after his relationship with Rasheeda, lost as a result of the public drama. But both men were troubled by the fallout from their actions. Whether it's unclear whether they will ever entirely recover from the harm done to their reputation and relationship. It seems like Joc's fallout and Kirk had turned into a warning to other celebrities about how brittle when egos and celebrity clashed. The question of whether they could ever mend the relationship remained. Harm caused, or was their relationship permanently ruined as time went on? The media continued to spread fresh stories, and interest in the conflict between Kirk Frost and young Joc persisted. Fans also remained split, with some backing them, adding fuel to the flame that had destroyed their bond. Kirk's choice to prioritize his family while others supported Joc and urged him to defend the relationship they previously had. As the drama progressed, it became more evident that this was more than simply a celebrity dispute. Rather, it had evolved into an emblem of how even the closest of friendships might be destroyed by celebrity, pride, and hubris. Yet just when it appeared like when the animosity between Kirk and Joc reached an all-time high, a startling incident took place, according to those close to. Both men started to allude to a shocking turn of events that nobody anticipated, such as a covered meeting, public appearance, or perhaps a joint statement that would either reconcile the two men or end their relationship was allegedly in the works. Fans and the media anxiously anticipated the news, continuously checking their phones to seal their split from one another. As the days stretched into weeks and then into months, I was expecting for some kind of information that would signal a resolution. Every time one of them was seen in public, the likelihood of a reunion appeared to diminish because of the tension that was. Kirk, who was often seen with his wife Rasheeda, appeared intent on demonstrating that he had moved on and was focused on his family, but it was impossible to miss the sorrow in his eyes. The toll the battle had taken on him was evident in the way he talked about the aftermath and carried himself, showed that he had become less inclined to interact and more guarded. Young Joc, on the other hand, had doubled down on his career with the public or media, utilizing the issue to drive his music. But although his fans continued to support him, his work didn't appear to be the comfort he had anticipated it would be. His social media messages became more cryptic, indicating that the personal loss he was experiencing was still bothering him, with allusions to treachery and strained connections, further implying the profound emotional toll the feud had on him. At this time, Joc realized that the altercation with Kirk was a personal tragedy rather than just a professional loss. Both guys realized they had lost something far more important than friendship due to the the public outcry, fan outrage, and the wounds were more severe than they had expected. What had previously been a relationship built on mutual respect and trust had deteriorated due to persistent rumors, becoming an irreversible fracture, and despite their best efforts, it seemed that the harm could not be reversed. Fans were speaking out more about the rivalry in the meanwhile, with some choosing sides and others venting their annoyance. Everyone appeared to be waiting for Kirk and Joc to initiate contact because of the lack of resolution. But neither, as the months passed and the rumors about their relationship continued, the guys seemed prepared to confront the truth of their shattered relationship. If the future only became worse, would time be able to mend the relationship, or had too much been spoken and done for them to ever be back together? The question persisted, and it seemed that nobody knew the solution. But one thing was evident, that the public's memory of their fallout had been solidified by the drama surrounding it. It was no longer merely the story of Kirk Frost and young Joc, had gained notoriety and would be discussed for years to come. Kirk's ego and the heartbreaking fallout from a disagreement with someone he previously referred to as a brother was very heavy, and he had attempted to concentrate on his job and his family, but the fight's weight kept dragging. He had days down there when he questioned if he would ever be capable of restore the connection with Joc, or if he would never be able to shake the remorse of losing such a strong connection with his. Rasheeda in particular continued to encourage him, but even she was aware that Kirk had not really recovered from the hurt of losing something that tormented him was Joc. The daily Joc also had trouble with the notion of forgiveness. In spite of his attempts to proceed, he was unable to get rid of the sense of treachery that persisted in his. The altercation with Kirk had broken my heart. His feeling of safety departing from him, casting doubt on not just his bond with Kirk, but his full comprehension of devotion and faith. As much as he desired to release the pain, the rage, and the pride, he was caught in a vicious loop of resentment that prevented him from breaking the naturally. The general populace had their own ideas on how some fans' lives might turn out. Thought the two guys would finally get back together, citing the lengthy their friendships passed and the connection at one point. Some believed that the harm was irreparable, and that Joc and Kirk were just too dissimilar to ever find a common ground again. Regardless of the result, it was evident that their small number had affected not only their lives, as well as their fans' lives. Additionally, the narrative of Kirk, the breakup between Frost and young Joc, was a reminder of how complicated celebrity is and connections. It wasn't just about the public, the theater, or the battles. Spectacle. It was about the sentimental, the price of living under continuous examination of the relationship between the two guys had fallen prey to their own egos. Their goals and the demands that came with being the center of attention, whether would eventually figure out how to fix their strained relationship, or whether their conflict might continue to be an integral part of their. Nobody could answer the issue of careers response, but one thing was for sure. There was still drama, and the world would keep watching as Kirk and Joc handled the fallout from their broken relationship. The conflict between young Joc and Kirk Frost have stunned the globe, dividing admirers and wondering whether there's a possibility that reconciliation. With a lot on the line, this dispute is obviously still going strong. Do you believe Kirk and Joc will ever restore their relationship, or is this the Finally, we would want to hear your ideas. Leave a remark below and let us know which side you're on. Will they reconcile, or is this the fight? It really shatters their relationship forever. Don't forget to press the like button if you're keeping up with this startling tale, and to get more exclusive information on Kirk Joc along with all of your favorite celebrities, don't miss out on the next step. The narrative always has more to tell, and we'll keep you updated on all the. Stay tuned for the latest updates, because the drama is not at all